Hey everyone, this is me, the Pyre Master, and we're at Worlds 2011, and right now I'm going to bring you deck tech by Dual Draw. This is his Reshiphlosion deck, which he piloted for the grinders. So, explain this deck, what it does.
Pretty much, you have your Reshiram for 2 fire and a colorless. You do Blue Flare for 120, and you discard 2 energy from Reshiram. 120 with the Mega being so popular right now, and a lot of things being within range of 120. Reshiram is just a good card overall, especially with 130 HP. And you use Typhlosion either to get a quicker start, because you can put energies in the discard from whatever means, or to just power up Reshiram again. So that's pretty much the whole deck right there.
Okay, so that's the basics. Anything different about this list from like normal Reshiphlosions?
The first thing people are going to notice are 0 Ninetales. That is mainly because I didn't need another thing to set up. The way I had it with Ninetales, I had to run more fire, and I had less draw supporters in there, and it was just clunky because I had to collect her for a Vulpix, a Cyndaquil, and a Reshiram most of the time, and they could just drag up the Cyndaquil instead, and then I don't have a second Cyndaquil to rare candy into, so what am I going to do? So I took that out in favor of the Junipers and the Professor Oaks, or more of them anyway, just so I could run a more stable list if I got reversals or whatever. Also, well, this is standard Cleffa. Most people would run Manaphy. Manaphy's terrible in this deck because you need to retreat. Everything in this deck needs to retreat but the babies. So I wasn't feeling safe about running this. I couldn't rely on top decking my one switch when I needed Manaphy. Zekrom was a tech for Samurott because it was the grinders. I didn't know what to expect. If I played some bad Samurott deck round 1, I really didn't want to lose just because of that. So I figured it was a safe enough counter because I could put damage on it really easily and 2-shot a Samurott without much effort.
And then Elekid?
And Elekid was actually... Elekid was... It was kind of like a safe plus power, and I could actually, like, instead of... I know I could just use Tyrogue, but I could also hit them while they're on the bench, so if they're setting up and whatnot. It also helped, like today, in the side events, it also helped me in a game where I got to snipe a Solosis before it evolved, because there's earthquake damage on it. And that was really helpful. I mean, I know not many decks play Solosises or whatever, but if there's a baby with 10 on it, it helped. But mainly to put damage on stuff like Magnezone, so I didn't have to waste all my plus powers or Fampies before they evolved. Just, yeah, a searchable snipe.
Yeah. And then like more trainer supporters now?
Yeah, 4 collector because it's too good right now. People might run dual ball, but they're not thinking properly, because if you flip double tails, you just wasted a card in your deck that could have been a safe collector. 4 Oaks, 3 Juniper, just draw support. I had 9 in there. I had 2 Sages in there originally as well, but it never... I kept hitting like 2 Typhlosion and like other stuff I didn't want to discard, so I didn't want to run the risk of that in the grinder, but I wouldn't go back to it either. This worked just fine. I also run a Twins because I actually heard about this in line at Grinders.
By Jason K.
I had a judge in there before, and they were talking about Twins and Reshiphlosion, and the logic behind it was good, and I put it in about 5 minutes before I got registered. 3 communication because there wasn't enough Pokemon in here for me to consistently shuffle in and whatnot. 3 Junk Arms, pretty standard. 3 Rare Candy, 3 Reversal. Also pretty well, normally it's 4 Reversal, but I wanted a Circulator because Circulator has so much value in this format. If they just send up something to sack, because you might not even be able to KO it, you can just Circulator around it, and they'll give you something that you can outrage, so you can also conserve energy and whatnot. It was just a really great card. I used it in all my matches at Grinders. If Catcher wasn't coming out, I'd still use it, but we still have Catcher coming out. So 3 plus power. I had a Tyrogue in here originally. I took it out for a 3rd because I wanted to draw into them. It worked too. I drew into them when I needed them. Just more damage for Reshiram.
Hits those Magnezone
and stuff. If I can't Elekid. I wasn't always able to Elekid, so that's pretty much that. Defenders for everything else, for everything that wants to KO Reshi, because if you can leave yourself so that you have a lot of damage on you, like let's say 120, you can outrage for 140, which is just huge because you don't have to discard energy, and if they don't have a return KO, they usually do, but if they don't, they're in a lot of trouble. So defenders for Mirror, Zoroark, whatever.
Yeah.
And then Revive. This was I have no idea who suggested this to me, but it was probably my favorite card in the deck, because if they killed the Cyndaquil early on, I could bring it back. It made me easier about made me feel easier about running one of each baby, because if it got killed, I could just revive it
if needed.
If needed. I rarely actually needed it, but sometimes I did revive my Cleffa, and that really helped a lot. And I could revive a Reshiram or Zekrom if I needed it, which I usually used it to revive Reshiram, but it can be used for so much of the deck, and it's just good. Also, and then one switch, because Zekrom wasn't the worst start in this deck. You could free retreat out of Cleffa and Alakid. Reshiram, you could start to sponge up damage, or even start to power up Blue Flare. Sometimes you didn't even need to Cleffa or whatever. I found that a lot with this deck. The Juniper and Oaks could set this deck up insanely well after Collector. And then Cyndaquil could just retreat for one, so I never really needed Switch. It's just sometimes to save energy later game and whatnot. And then 11 Fire, because I'm not running Ninetales, I didn't need to discard more. I didn't need that attach per turn and whatever, and that was just enough that I could still start with it, but I'd also be able to discard one or two with Junk Armor Juniper, and just, yeah.
So you ran this for the grinder. How did your matchups work and everything?
Well, I finished, I got knocked out in the 4th round, and I played against Primetime, which is Yanmega, Kingdra, Magneton, Jirachi, and I ran, the one game I did play. I mean, he donked me game 1, and game 3, he drew pass for most of the game. And pretty much what happened was I set up, and it's too difficult for him to keep up with me, because the only thing that can really one-shot me is Magnezone. He used 2 energy on that all the time, and I had 3 Typhlosion up that game, and I was just rolling through everything. And especially the judges are really not affecting me at all, because I have so many draw supporters. I made sure I held on to them if I didn't need them, and that won me that matchup. The next round I played against Stage 1 box, except no Mega, and that was probably my easiest matchup, because I just sat there I didn't even use Reshiram that much. I just sat there with Flare Destroyer, and that really affected him a lot, because he didn't really have that many energy in his deck. So I could just keep discarding them, and Typhlosion, he could rarely kill it because Zoroark couldn't do anything to it. His Cincino, he couldn't get the energy for it all the time, and his Donphan would only do 60. So when he got close to knocking it out, I'd just retreat and go to another one. And that pretty much won me that match in both games. And then when I got knocked out round 4, it was really just because I dead drew both in game 1 and 3, and he got a better start pretty much. So yeah, what can you do about that?
Yeah, stuff happens.
Yeah.
But, like, this deck seems good. It was hyped a lot. People played it a lot of Worlds. How do you think this deck will do in the new format, and how does it change? Is it still playable and stuff?
Right now, it's just theory, obviously, but I'm thinking this deck will be a good play coming into the new format, even with Catcher, because it's not like you really lose your energy attachments to Typhlosion. You can get them back into play. It might be difficult to
keep Typhlosions?
It might be difficult to keep Typhlosions, but I think a solid list that's more focused on consistency. Like, I know there's a straight draw 3 card coming out, and I know that I'm going to be using that in addition to these, and maybe still even use a Twins or 2, because once you're set up, like, it's really easy to keep going. Like, if you have 2 Typhlosions up, you can probably attack every turn on anything in the deck. I'd probably take these 2 out, Elekid and Zekrom, in the coming format, because you can just catch her around stuff if you need to take knockouts and whatever, and yeah. But also, there's a Trainer Crushing Hammer coming out, which is actually, I love it with Typhlosion because they do the same thing. You can just with Catcher and Crushing Hammer and Flare Destroy, you can just totally disrupt your opponent at any point in the game for little to no effort. So that's what I really like about that. So.
And obviously, like, these 4 cards are going to be switched out.
Yeah, those 4 will be. I might even, like, I could probably drop a plus power too, because those genie things only have 110 HP. Zekrom puts damage on itself, and I can't really see other than Donphan what I'd need them for. So I could even drop plus power for room and whatever.
Mm-hmm. But like these 4 become catchers, obviously, with the new format.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I probably won't need the defenders anymore. I'm not too sure right now.
Okay, so you have seen this. Hope you like it. We'll have more deck techs about Worlds and decks. So stay tuned. And yeah.